Hi and welcome back. So I'm dreaming about traveling through and discovering the whole US. Of course, I can't do it right now because I'm a poor student and don't have enough money for it, but probably next year or hopefully next year this will happen. And therefore it's pretty great to get some advice from somebody that lives there. And Lost in a Pond made a great video about this, which we are reacting to today. But before we do that, please hit like and subscribe if you love the content, because then my dream could maybe come a little bit earlier true. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and please tell me things that I should know as a foreigner visiting the US that he didn't mention.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and
Hi.
I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And one of those memos pertains to travel.
What are memos?
Specifically, travel between the two countries. And today, in what is the start of a two-part series, I will be giving my British subscribers some advice on what to know before travelling to the United States. And I know what you're thinking, ooh, Lawrence, I thought you didn't like giving unsolicited advice. And I don't. My team are making me do this because I'm a British and American citizen and therefore some sort of expert.
Both citizenships.
And so since I have visited both countries on 4 billion different occasions, I suppose I might as well tell you what I've learned. And if you're watching this video and thinking, who the heck is this guy? That probably means you're not subscribed to this channel. So I've just got 2 words for you. Do that now. That's 3 words. In the meantime, here are 7 things that British people ought to know before visiting the United States.
Why does he say it so aggressively? The United States!
One thing that I'll never get used to is being touched up and down by people in rubber gloves. And this is especially true in airports.
They
and
touch
that,
you?
unfortunately, was the best way we could think of
Wait,
to say...
they touch you? Because in Europe you only you only go through a door that has like sensors in it. They touch you?
Segue into airport security. And don't get me wrong, nobody in either country likes the drudgery of having to haul your suitcase onto a conveyor belt only for a stranger to open it up and reveal to the world your collection of tubes.
Dear God.
I'm talking about my camera equipment, you dirty little... But pound for pound, I'd say that this process is a little less stressful in Britain. You see, it's often noted that American airport security is little more than theatre. And I don't mean that all of the agents start singing Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean that it's all for show. Take off your shoes. Why? Are you inviting me into your house? Make sure all of your electronics are in a separate tray. People think it's easy being a YouTube sensation. And then when you're done with all of that, make sure you pull your trousers back up after they fell down because you removed your belt. To be fair, that happened to me in British airports too. And then there's American immigration officers who sternly ask you questions like, what is the nature of this visit? What's your mother's maiden name? What's in the box? That was Brad Pitt in 7. My advice to you there is don't panic unless you're Gwyneth Paltrow. Again, it's theatre. Speak calmly, truthfully, and don't forget to project! Not that kind of theatre. People say to me, Lawrence, I want to visit America, and when I'm there, I want to see New York City, the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls for some reason, Texas, like the whole state, and then
Wait, New York is there, Niagara Falls, I think, as well. Then what was Los Angeles, I think he said, is on the other side, and Texas is in the south, so...
Disney World. Well, I've got news for you. Unless you plan to be here for 6 months or you own a time machine, that's not going to happen. Because that would be like 10,000 miles of journey time. So when visiting the United States, it's a good idea to pick one kind of micro-region. Then once you've got that down, figure out how you're going to get around. After all, I'm sure you've heard me mention before that America isn't as good as Britain when it comes to trains, buses and broomsticks. Depending on where you are in the country, your best bet is probably to rent a car. Then of course you'll have to contend with driving on the opposite side of the road, operating a larger vehicle than you're used to.
For Brits, yeah, because we drive on the same side.
And having no idea what some of the road signs mean. Either way, it's important.
Wait, this is a yield sign?
Than you're used to, and having no idea what...
Oh my god, that's way too big. Wait, here is a German yield sign. Here, or here, I don't know.
Some of the road signs mean. Operating a larger vehicle than you're used to and having no idea what some of the road signs mean. Either way, it's important to figure out all of this before visiting the United States so that you don't end up stranded on the interstate thumbing down vehicles like it's the 70s. I mean, that's how I met Chainsaw Jim, and I no longer have a shed.
There's a shed.
In this 21st century world, there's a good chance that when you visit America, you'll be bringing with you a little something called electronics. This might be a laptop computer, a mobile phone, or other things that vibrate. Either way, at some point, there's a good chance that you're going to need to insert it into a plug socket.
Not bad, not bad.
electronics.
Please hit like and subscribe. It would help me so much. Thank you.
This might be a laptop computer, a mobile phone, or other things that vibrate. Either way, at some point, there's a good chance that you're going to need to insert it into a plug socket. And here's the thing, on either side of the pond, plug sockets look different. How do I know this? Because I did a video all about it, and I've lived in both countries. Basically, American plug sockets are
It always looks like a scared face. Look at this. Those are the eyes and this is the mouth. There's like...
completely and utterly a little bit smaller than British ones. Additionally, while most of them
yeah, Brits have not the European ones, right?
do have 3 holes, some only have 2, and I'm still talking about plug sockets. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, because your British plug sockets will not fit into those holes. And you might be thinking, oh no, what am I going to...
Is he still talking about the plug sockets?
How do I edit my videos while on holiday? If you're a content creator. If you're not, then just ignore that example. The point is...
I think about that. Going tomorrow on vacation.
It's just like
You've seen this, by the way, if I'm on vacation. Hi.
Year 9 chemistry classes, there is a solution. That solution is a converter that you plug into your plug like that, and then that bit goes into the wall, and then you get the American electricity-ness. And now you might be asking, where can we get these, Lawrence? And the answer is simple. On the World Wide Internet Web. And on that subject, the World Wide Internet Web is where 1/3 of Americans like to do their shopping.
I love that he has a web in the back of his picture.
More than 10 million of those shoppers are doing this more cost-effectively by using... On the subject of purchases, there's one major difference between shopping in the UK and shopping in the United States. In the UK, you'll be...
Price, taxes not included?
used to walking through the shopping aisles and thinking, look at the price of that meat. It includes value-added tax. Isn't that amazing? Nobody actually does that. But that was my way of illustrating that in Britain, the price you see on the price tag is the price that you pay at the till. In America, which is still in this direction, this is not the case. In fact, the reason that I include this is that I discovered it as a visitor myself.
I've been cleared for landing.
During a visit to Portland, not the weird one, but the one in Maine, I bought a Beatles album because...
Tell me what the weird Portland is, because I didn't get the joke.
It's just something I do on every continent. And I was fairly happy to find that, oh, look at this. It's under $10. That is a bargain. So I take it up to the till, pull out a big $10 bill, not that big, all the cash is the same size, and say, here you go, have a bit of that, until she rings it up. And it says $11.57. All right, I'll pull out some coins. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it is a bit of a...
That is always my fear that I have going to the US. And I think I've been to quite some countries, but I think the US is the only country where I've been to where this is the case. So yeah, that is still my fear. I couldn't overcome this fear until now.
Surprise when you first do it. One thing that stands out to me about people that visit the United States is that we do tend to visit the tourist hotspots. And this makes sense because they're tourist hotspots.
Yeah.
They have the things you need like entertainment, shops. But we often forget that there are some lesser visited places.
And I mean, in the US are, as we have said, many very different places that are very famous, right? So you want to see those places, and because there are so many, you have to go to at least one or two and don't go to unpopular places, right? So I get why everybody goes to the popular places.
Places that are also worthy of your time. Like, for example, Mackinac Island, which is not pronounced Mackinac Island. Or, instead of Orlando, Florida, check out St. Augustine, Florida. Said to be the oldest city in the United States and home to old Spanish architecture.
Very cool.
Whatever it is, if you want to see America, don't be afraid to be a contrarian. It's okay to tell your friends back home, no, I didn't go to Las Vegas. We spent a week in Asheville, North Carolina. Which is probably where the conversation will end, but you'll have had good memories. Most people
tipping is, I think, very different. I heard from Europe.
Probably aware that the United States has a tipping culture, much to the annoyance of cows. But that tipping culture also extends
That was a joke, but I don't get it.
to restaurants and bars. And British people for whom tipping isn't a requirement back home are often confused about how much they should tip. Well, in a sit-down restaurant where servers come to your table, it is recommended that you tip between 15 and 20%.
20%?
So if the bill reads
20%? I don't know. In Germany, it's like, you know, if you have a 37 euros, or let's say 33 euros bill, you know, 33.50. Then you tip to the next 5. So you tip probably to 35. So that would be, I don't know, that would be 5% at all. Mostly you maybe also don't go to the next euro or stuff like this. But 20%, I mean 20% would be like 7 euros? Oh my god, that is so much.
$75.
And it is expected, you normally tip if you like the waiter, stuff like this. It's expected. I don't know. I probably would forget tipping and I would be, come over as so rude, Oh my god.
Then you add on
$11.25 to $15.
$11.25 to $15. And Lawrence, would you do this at Burger King? And the answer is no, because I don't go in Burger King. But if I did, the answer would still be no, because fast food restaurants don't expect you to. I hope.
Okay.
Otherwise, I've been a complete for the last 16 years. And for a beer at a bar, it's a good rule of thumb to tip between $1 and $2.
That's how much the beer should cost. Oh wait,
At a bar, it's a good rule of thumb to tip between $1 and $2. Just don't get so drunk that you forget this step, like I did 12 years ago at the Doubletree in Westminster, Colorado. And finally, something that I've benefited from both as a visitor and a resident of the United States is this. Some Americans incorrectly assume that I'm smart just because of my accent. And what I'm saying to you is, use that
Wait, do you think I am a very, very weird supervillain or what? That was more Austrian right now. You know what I mean.
to your advantage. In fact, this is especially true if you do visit the places that aren't necessarily tourist hotspots. You see, in major cities like New York or Chicago, a British accent is a dime a dozen, to the extent that nobody really asks me about my accent here. But back when I lived in Indiana, they treated me like royalty. But if you come here and say words like tomato, banana, water, Americans will absolutely love you, or think you have a weird diet. Either way, your accent
What is about Germans? Tell me, what is about Germans?
alone is a good icebreaker if you're the sort of person who likes to be talked at. And if you're not, then don't talk.
Final thoughts, okay.
I suppose a bonus piece of advice would be just have fun. America is a very surprising
Fun.
country.
That is not British, right? Fun. I think it's fun. It's British, right?
Very surprising
A
people. In fact, in part 2 of this series, I will be advising some of those people on what to know before visiting Britain. So click my bell if you'd like to be notified of that. In the meantime, a big thank
again a little bit, juicy.
you to my patrons who continue to make this channel possible. If you
Well, I really liked that video. I always like his videos. He is such a smart guy, not only because he has a British accent, but also because he is smart and makes very good jokes. In this video, I didn't get all of them, but I hope you explain them to me in the comments. And I have a little, at least a little grin when I read the comments, like a And yeah, I really like this video. And I have to say, as I said, there are quite some differences where I have to look out for that are different from Germany to the United States. The one that stood out for me was, I think in particular, the tipping thing. Because, especially if you pay with card, nobody asks for a tip. So yeah, I don't know. I normally don't tip in Germany if I pay with card. But I also don't normally go to restaurants. So that is then the thing. I think you only tip freely in Germany if you pay by cash, But I heard also that in the US, you don't pay so much by cash. So that must mean that you tip by card. Tell me more. Is this really true? Or is it just a weird thing that I made up in my head? That was at least a thing that is very different. I think in Germany, nobody would, come up to you and say, oh, you have an accent, blah, 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 blah. Because, I don't know, it's more like rude. And because, I don't know, it's considered, if you don't speak perfect German, you don't tell the person that she doesn't speak perfect German. Because, it's more like, oh, you don't speak perfect German, you're not so good at German. So I don't know if this would be cool or not so cool in the US. I think that people are pretty nice and they say, hey guy, you're from Germany, right? I have ancestry. And then I would say, I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep liking and subscribing, and we see each other in the next video. Bye. And also tell me which places I should visit down below, and maybe some videos that I can check out to check out the places. That would be awesome. Okay, bye.